All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to Speak True Sports. Today we are doing a team-specific video, and that's because I'm a Wizards fan, and of course Wes is a Wizards fan. So I brought him back, and you can go check West out on Instagram at Pissed Off Wizards Fan. That's his @. And we're just gonna be talking about the Wizards today. We're going to be going over a bunch of different prospects and discussing what their range is, how realistic it is for us to draft them, and then how would they fit here in DC. So I say we kick it off with the guy who is like mocked the most to us. I say we start with Johnny Davis. He's definitely in our range. I'd say his range is anywhere from like 8 to 12-ish.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
8 to 12. Yeah, I see 8 is the highest, and then I don't really see him falling past that 11, 12 area, but
yeah, but he's gonna make his money defensively. I think we talked about him in the last pod a little bit.
Yeah, he was. We
mocked him.
You actually picked him.
Yeah.
Last pod, but
yeah, he's a really solid player. I believe I actually talked with someone in the comments and like explained like how he would fit with Bradley Beal, which is pretty good. He would definitely cover up for Beal's defensive deficiencies. When it comes to hustle and effort, I mean, Johnny Davis is always giving hustle and effort on defense. That is not a question with him on defense. And he's 6'5". So if we started him at point guard, or maybe started Beal at point guard and put him as shooting guard, he could still work there. I question his ability to defend threes. Some people are saying he's a 1 through 3 defender. I don't know about that. Maybe if he gets switched on, he'll do fine, but I don't think he's like a full-time, like he's not going to be playing 3.
Yeah, well, I feel like he definitely has the frame too. I feel like he's a really strong player, but
yeah,
I feel like, but just in terms of like height and length, I feel like it would be a tough matchup for him against like any regular size 3. But
yeah, most threes in the NBA nowadays are at least 6'7", if not taller, 6'8", 6'9". So
unless you're the Wizards and you're starting 6'5" KCP for the whole year, but that's not what we're talking about today.
Yeah, that's not what we're talking about right now. But yeah, Johnny Davis is overall just a really, really solid prospect. He can handle the ball. He can score. His shooting is a little bit suspect. I'm not totally sold on the form, especially the release. Just looks kind of weird to me, mechanically. But
it's a little bit of a straight shot. It's not like terrible or anything. It's just a little bit like sometimes. Also, sometimes he kicks out like his legs in like opposite directions on 3-pointers. It's definitely something he needs to work on, but
yeah, I just don't like how his hands kind of end up like this, like after he's done, like his hands are like out here, and it's like it just looks weird. If you're listening to this on like the Spotify or Apple Pods or whatever, come over to the YouTube to see our faces if you want. And inversely, if you're looking at this on YouTube and you just want to pick it up and listen to it on the go ahead and hop onto our Spotify or whatever you listen to podcasts with. We're probably on there. But continuing on, I think John Davis would be a great fit here. He's kind of like the boring pick because he's mocked here so often, but that doesn't mean he's a bad pick at all. He's still a really, really good pick, and he's a really, really solid player, and I think we'd be lucky to have him at 10.
So yeah, I think I feel like offensively, his main strength I would say is just like his shot making. He can make a bunch of difficult shots, and his bread and butter is the mid range. He loves doing it there. Considering his volume and attention defenses gave him, it was like in the low 40s, I think, which is it's pretty solid. There's a lot of potential there. He's not a quick player. He lacks athleticism. Not saying he's not athletic, but he's definitely not close to the top tier of athletes considering just based on how quick he is off the dribble, off the catch. But he can get to the rim because his footwork's really good. He's pretty strong, so he can bully some smaller guards to get to the rim. Even in the low post, he can post up on some smaller players too. I feel like you see is like a great feel offensively, even though the outside shot's still a question. And people bring up his playmaking. It was like he had technically by a decimal more turnovers. He averaged more turnovers than assists. But I would argue that's just out of his role. He wasn't supposed to be a playmaker for others that much. He was just supposed to create his own shot, and then if he had to, he'd jump it off to a roller or swing it to a shooter in the corner But a lot of the times he wouldn't do that just because he didn't trust his less talented core of teammates at Wisconsin. I feel like it's a little bit unfair to him just because I feel like he would make those better reads with NBA level teammates, but that's just me.
I respect that, and I see where you're coming from. In terms of his playmaking, I think he does a better job at getting others open. I'm not sure if he is doing a great job of finding the right guys or making the right decisions at times. I think he struggles with decision making sometimes on offense.
He takes a lot of tough shots, which it's obviously not going to be. You can't have that shot diet in the NBA. Having a bunch of step backs and deep twos, and just forcing it. Even when he gets to the rim, it's like when help comes, he's still going to try to muscle the ball up there, but it's not always the best move.
Yeah, like I said, his decision making sometimes on passes, sometimes on reads, isn't where you'd want it to be. But at the same time, I'm willing to cut a little bit of slack because, like you said, for one, he was carrying most of his offense at Wisconsin, and two, I mean, yeah, he was mostly looking to score. He wasn't totally focused on assisting to other people. So maybe he'd get better if he was told to focus on passing other people. But it's still an area of improvement for him, and he definitely needs to get better at that. And I mean, he's very Beal-like in that sense as well, where he's not like necessarily a natural playmaker, but because he can drive to the rim and he can get things going and he can get people open, he kind of ends up being like a decent playmaker.
Because of how much the defense pulls to them, mainly like as the number one option, because they'd like just rather give like a more so open look or let someone else create than Beal/Davis.
So I mean, that's Johnny Davis. That's the most likely person that we're going to draft. But you know how it is. Whenever somebody's mocked to one team consistently, they never end up drafting that player. So we might not even see Johnny Davis in a Wizards uniform.
We might pass on Johnny Davis. You don't know.
I mean, that would definitely shock me if we did, but it will also depend on who's there. Let's talk about let's bring up Mark Williams and Jalen Duren just briefly. I don't think we're gonna take them. They're both amazing prospects. I really, really like both of them for a little bit different reasons. I think Mark's a little bit quicker on his feet than Duren is, just overall. And obviously he measured insane at the combine, and that's definitely something that we should take into account. But at the same time, we have Gafford, we have Porzingis. Unless you're planning on running Porzingis at the 4, which we're already stacked on 4s, we don't really need him to.
And we didn't last year with Gafford healthy. Kuzma was our 4, and he's 6'10", so playing him at 6'3" would be a giant lineup. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah. I don't think it would happen for a very long period of time, just because Porzingis is kind of slow. He would be slow to guard 4s.
Yeah.
Especially modern 4s, which are basically just small forwards at this point. Right. So yeah, I don't know if that lineup would work totally consistently.
And one of those guys, like, they're not gonna be in the rotation unless you like play double big lineups, and that's not good because Porzingis, he's making a hell lot of money, 30 mil plus. Gafford, his extension is gonna kick in the year after next season, and obviously you want him to develop because you paid him, and obviously you want your 10th overall pick to like obviously get some playing time too. So I don't see it happening, but I definitely think I feel like they're going to be good. I feel like they fit the modern center very well. And I
totally agree. It's just, you're right. Unless we play specific double big lineups, they're not going to get many minutes. I don't want to draft a guy at 10 who's not going to be able to play for the next however long Porzingis is here for, right? I'd rather have somebody that can at least has a chance to crack the rotation.
Right.
And this isn't saying that Jalen Duren couldn't beat out Gafford, but it's like at the end of the day, you're paying one guy way more money than you are the other. So even though Gafford is I consider his deal actually decently team friendly.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, you're just committed to him.
Yeah, you literally just committed to him. Unless they're looking to trade him, I don't think we take Mark Williams or Jalen Duren.
Right.
So let's move on to the next guy. Another contentious pick between Wizards fans, Jeremy Sochan. I'm gonna
I
be
mean, yeah,
honest. Yeah, why don't you start? Why don't you
I
start?
mean, he's definitely like has the best. He's good. He has the best defensive floor in the draft. I think by far he can. Yeah, I mean
He's
he's very
versatile.
versatile. You can switch guard. Would you say it? What would you say?
I'd say you could
One
probably
through
guard
four, one through five, or
one
not
through.
not ones. Well, maybe ones.
I would say 1 through 4. He's able to switch on to 1 through 4, but I think truly he's going to guard mostly 3s and 4s. But
Right.
he's able to switch on to, I think, smaller guards and at least keep up with them. 5s, I would say some 5s, like smaller 5s. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say he's switching on to Embiid or doing anything against like a guy like that. But yeah, he's definitely got the best defensive versatility in this class. I think he has the most defensive upside totally. If you're running a really good switch scheme, I think he would be invaluable
Right.
to that defense. The problem is we have so many forwards already,
Yeah.
and that's the main thing that is holding me back from picking
And
up.
like, so I think he's gonna be a power forward in the NBA.
Yeah.
Like, and so in the Wizards, they see Kyle Kuzma and Rui Hachimura as power forwards, even though I think Rui could have some success at the 3 with his newfound solid 3-point shooting, but I don't see that happening. So it's going to be hard for him to earn minutes early, just with, and also Deni Avdija, he's 6'9". He can play the 4 defensively at times too. So it's fit wise, it's good. I'd say the only good thing is that this team obviously needs to improve defensively. They were, I don't know, is it?
We were
I mean, they're
bottom
thinking 21st or 26th in defensive rating. But that's like the only positive in terms of fit, I'd say, for Sochan. But
yeah, and obviously a big concern is his offense. I think people are okay on his passing for the most part, but his 3-point shot does not look good. He didn't hit free throws at a very high clip from what I remember. And yeah, look, if we're gonna have another player who's defense only and can't play offense, he better start, because unless like Deni makes a huge leap in his 3-point shooting, I don't want to see Deni and Sochan play together on offense.
yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be 2 non-floor spacers, but I think Deni could kind of, because I think obviously percentage was 31%. That's not good, but on catch and shoot, he's not hesitating. He's shooting those, but yeah, that's just like 2 almost non-floor spacers. You can't really have that.
Yeah, and this is coming from a Deni fan. I love Deni. I think Deni's going to take a big leap in his this upcoming year. But at the same time, realistically, if you're kind of looking at it right now, you can't really just assume that he's going to take that leap. If we took Sochan, I definitely would just want to run point Beal at that point, unless we get a really good point guard, so we could fully utilize him. I think a fit right there, like a lineup, would be maybe Beal, KCP, Kuzma at the 3, Sochan at the 4.
So yeah. So and then KP can also space. So
yeah,
Jeremy's the only non-spacer in the starting lineup. So it could, in theory, maybe work spacing wise, but
yes. But also you're running the risk of it's a rookie and you're trusting on a rookie to be the main crux of your defense. It could go bad. So that's all I'm saying there. Do you want to move on to the next prospect, or do you got anything else to say about Jeremy?
I think I'm good. Like offensively, he's like, yeah, he can't really shoot or create his own shot. I mean, obviously, I think he should be pretty effective as a roller and crashing the glass, but is definitely, he's not going to bring much. But
yeah, I think the argument for him is just the Wizards fans who want to see defense finally.
Yeah.
The argument against him is Wizards fans who are tired of drafting guys who can't shoot. Like, we've done that for like the past 2. We done that, like we did that 2 drafts in a row. Rui learned to shoot. Deni is still coming along. He's still very young, obviously. We should give him some more time, but yeah. Next guy, we're going to talk about a guy who has been falling on draft boards everywhere, according to many different sources. Shaedon Sharpe. So Shaedon Sharpe is interesting We have like no film of him. We have like barely any tape of him.
Well, he did not play any organized basketball last year.
He did at first.
Well, yeah, but
like
I mean, not last season, not last year. My bad.
Yeah, yeah. I think he played like a couple months. I think he actually did play in high school for like a couple months, and then he went over to Kentucky, and Kentucky decided to not play him. In fairness to their other guys, which I respect, and also probably might have been from Shaedon's camp. They're like, hey, we don't want this guy to play because it'll just have his stock decrease if he doesn't play amazingly, right?
Right.
So here's the thing with Shaedon. We know that he is a shot creator, a really, really good shot creator. He has a really, really good pull up, especially from mid range. He can also pull up from three. He can also catch and shoot from three. The problem is the ball handling is not that great right now.
Yep.
At least we haven't seen. The defensive effort has been really poor, but that could also just be from, the games that we saw of him weren't like serious games. Like a lot of them were AAU games. So maybe he's just not trying on defense because AAU, right? But
yeah, his defense, I don't know where to start on how to rate him. He just gets a question mark for me defensively. Yeah. I just don't know where to start. I don't have, so I'm going to assume it's just not going to be good because we haven't really seen any good defensive film. And obviously when not trying, you can't judge him as like, oh, he's not going to be good defensively. I can't say that definitively.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to say like probably below average to start, even though, yeah.
Yeah, I think that right now I would question his defensive motor the most. I think he has the tools to be there. You just got to wonder if he can bring it every night in an 82-game season, which is a lot to ask of anybody making that jump to the NBA. In his rookie year, you're right, it's probably not going to be good. He might get better as it goes on, but that's just going to be on him and how much he works hard and commits to defense. Mm-hmm. The thing that's been making him fall, though, surprisingly enough, it's not just the tape or the lack thereof.
His character.
His character's coming into question because of the interviews that he's given. And I've watched a few of his interviews. Personally, it's really hard to get a read on him. And let me tell you why. All of his answers sound extremely scripted and rehearsed and like very generic.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get a read on his personality because I don't want to say he feels disingenuine, but like you can tell his camp told him you need to say this, 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 and this. And he's going out there and just saying this, 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 and this. He's not adding his own like for example, in the Kings interview, when they asked I think they asked him like, how would you fit with this team? He just said like, hey, like I would be a good scorer. He just talked about himself. He didn't mention a single person on the team at all. He didn't say, oh, well, I mean, De'Aaron Fox he's a really good playmaker. I know he can set me up, make my job easier. He didn't say any of that. He just talked about himself. And he said, when I think I can also pass the ball, give my teammates a little shine. That's a direct quote. Give my teammates a little shine. Just kind of rubs you a little weird. I don't want to say I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm not saying he's a bad prospect. Just saying these interviews are detrimental to him right now because I think he needs to come out and just show a little bit of his personality. That's why I like to see the most low key. It's just how chill is this guy? Like how cool is he? How hardworking is he? How focused is he? Shaedon just is kind of given the same repeated answers. And do you want to bring up the Spurs interview?
Oh yeah, he said something like it was. Let me pull it up. He was like asked, "How do you think you'll fit in?"
It was the same question as the Kings, or it was more like
it was.
Who were you excited to play with on the team, right?
Hold on.
I think the question.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a player on the Spurs you'd like to play with? Shaedon, no, not really. I just see it as a place where I can showcase myself and really play, get after it. So it like kind of reveals like maybe it's a possible lack of knowledge of NBA rosters. We don't, or as you said, his camp, you're just telling him give these kind of redundant, non-personable answers to have his draft stock stay a little, like steady. I don't know if they're worried about him saying something even worse, but yeah, he said, yeah, there's not really anyone on the Spurs I would look forward to playing with if I
Yeah,
Forgot
that
to say.
just such a bad answer. Like, I don't know. Like, you'd expect him to at least like say DeJounte Murray. Like, everybody knows DeJounte Murray's on the Spurs right now, right? So you'd at least expect him to say, "Oh, DeJounte, that guy, he's a great player. I like to play with him." That's it. End of the question. You look good. Move on.
I mean, also like obviously the question wasn't about him, but you could just mention, hey, it'd be great to play under Coach Pop too. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, that's literally anyone could say that, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's just I don't know if he wasn't prepared for it, or maybe he just doesn't want to go to the Spurs at all. He just really does not want to go to the Spurs, which
well,
also could be the case, or the
yes.
Kings.
Well, speaking of not wanting to go to a team, he canceled his workout with the New Orleans Pelicans, which many see as a red flag. What do you think?
Personally, I think it means one of two things. Either he has a promise from someone earlier than him, which might be the case or might not, because he also worked out with the Wizards, I believe.
I don't know. I don't think he has. I don't think he has.
I think he has. I'll double check that. But I swear I thought he's worked out with the Wizards. Either he has a promise from somebody like the Blazers, or maybe the Thunder, who said, if we can get this Blazers deal done, if we can trade for the 7th pick, you're our pick. Or he just really doesn't want to go to the Pelicans, which, I mean, look, I think even Chet Holmgren came out and didn't he say that he doesn't want to be on the Magic or something like that, like just straight up, or he wants to be on the Thunder the most or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was more about being on the Thunder than like not being on the Magic. But
Yeah, guys do this. They try to steer their own draft direction. I think even Denny, when we drafted him, we were on his short list of teams he'd actually want to go to. I think it was like us, the Warriors, and a couple other teams. But we were on that list, and that's why we drafted him. And that's also possibly a reason he fell. And so maybe this causes Shaedon to fall to 10 as well. And if he's there, I genuinely have no idea what's going to happen there with the Wizards. I have no idea if we'd pick him. In terms of how he'd fit, I mean, he'd be solid as I don't think he'd start.
Shot creator off the bench.
Yeah.
I mean,
he would not start.
Yeah, of course. He wouldn't. I guess I want to mention a few things. He was like a top 3 recruit out of high school, right? So if he played say he played at any college team and played like generally okay, his stock would be definitely like top 5, top 7 guaranteed, right?
No, I think he'd have to play like exceptionally well to be top 5 at least.
Okay, well, I'm just thinking like Andrew Wiggins, like he didn't play like too well at Kansas, but he just still showed so much upside that like.
Yeah, he was getting a lot of hype as like the next Kobe type of player. Mm-hmm. Shaedon is definitely, I feel like the hype's also been going down on him. He has insane athleticism in terms of just pure jumping.
Oh yeah, his vertical is insane. But when people like bring that up, like, oh, he'll be fine because of that, it's like, I don't think like it'll only really be effective in like transition if he doesn't improve his handle and to like actually like get to the rim. And he doesn't really have the burst of like someone like Jaden Ivey, who's in this draft class, but
he doesn't have the speed.
Yeah,
to get to the rim like as you'd like. So he's in a weird spot where he has a really good vert, but like, what would it translate in game? I don't know. And also, there was that anonymous NBA executive, which just completely blasted Shaedon Sharpe. Was like, how could you take this guy 5th? There's no tape on him. Point to me one skill he has, blah blah blah, stuff like that.
I think, and then someone said like he's hiding, or this may have been a different scout by saying like he's hiding like it's like he doesn't want teams to know more about him or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a different scout,
but I could definitely see that. The vibes are kind of weird with Shaedon Sharpe. I'm not sure how I feel about him. I'd be happy if the Wizards took him at 10. I would not expect him to contribute day one. And he definitely now, I think he probably has he's one of the bigger boom or bust prospects.
Yeah. The thing with him, like, that's still like having him like mocked pretty like in the top 10 is just because his ceiling and upside is still like really, because he has the tools to like be just an amazing player.
Yeah, finding a shot creator is very difficult. Like a very effective shot creator is very difficult. And Shaedon Sharpe, that's why he's so high, is because he can create his own shot. He can pull up from any range. He's really, really solid in that regard. The questions are coming in everywhere else. And I feel like his camp is doing a disservice to him in general. And I think they need to let him be himself and just give honest answers. And I think he needs to pull up a little bit more prepared. Yeah. I'd be okay if we drafted most people that are in our range, like in general. I'd be totally okay with it because I feel like a lot of these players they have their flaws and they have their strengths. But they're all kind of there's a very similar tier of talent from, I'd say, like 7 to maybe 16, 17, 18. I think that's like a actually similar range of talent for those prospects. So I would not mind, even if we reached a little bit for somebody. Like our next guy that we're going to talk about, Ochai Agbaji. He would be a reach at 10, but I mean, look, he got interviewed on off the bench. That's how you know the Wizards are at least really looking to. They're at least heavily considering drafting him. I feel like you can kind of tell who the Wizards' favorite prospects are. I think definitely they have Jaden Ivey up there, Johnny Davis, Ochai, TyTy, Dyson.
I mean, apparently they were going crazy because Dyson Daniels did this suicide drill, and he was one of the very few prospects over the years to complete it, and apparently people were going crazy about that.
Yeah, we will definitely talk about that in a little bit. But for right now, Ochai is a projected 3-and-D guy. He's in my opinion, I think he's very similar to KCP, but I think he makes better decisions sometimes, and I think he has more of a ceiling. And in terms of, he's more athletic than KCP, and he can actually drive to the rim and catch a body in the paint occasionally. Right, he's really athletic. He's a solid slasher. I think he'd be a solid pick at 10. I would be a little shocked, but I wouldn't be surprised if we took him there. But I'd probably expect us to trade back if we really wanted to get him, if we were serious about getting Ochai. And I really liked his interview. I'm going to be honest, he came off really well-spoken, really intelligent in his interview. He seems like a really good young guy. And he was even saying, he said that he researches just about every team before he actually goes there or goes to the workout, stuff like that. He knows, and he watches so much NBA that he naturally already knows a lot of the team stuff like that. And so that just makes me even a little more worried about Shaedon. But yeah, Ochai, go listen to his interview on Off the Bench. He's a really, really bright mind. He's a really good kid. I'd mess with it. It's definitely more of a win now pick. He would definitely either, I wouldn't say he'd start. He'd definitely be in consideration if we don't get a point guard. If we do get a point guard, he's definitely not starting. He's going to be off the bench. But honestly, I think if we take Ochai, we should seriously consider trading Kispert.
Yeah.
For a potential point guard, or even trade back and pick up a point guard later on. There's a few different options there, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, how do you feel about Ochai?
I feel like if we pick him, it's like the front office really just wanting a guy that can contribute now, bring that shooting and defense, which the team has literally, it seems now forever now has needed that. So I feel like the Wizards would want to if we're trying to be competitive next season for picking him. The thing on him is he's 22 years old. He's a senior. So people have said, obviously his ceiling isn't that high because he's still just a 3-and-D guy, kind of as a 22-year-old. People note his handle as a weakness. He can't create his own shot that well. But I feel like I would be like you said, kind of surprised if we picked him there, because his range is kind of late lottery to the late 20s about.
Yeah, I'd say this is the very top of his range. If he goes any higher than this, that's just an absolute there's no way. There's no chance he goes higher than 10. And I think he could even fall as low as maybe 20.
Yeah, I could see that too.
It's a very wide range. But yeah, Ochai would be a good pick. Not much to really say there. He'd be a solid win now pick if we really are.
But I would want to trade down for him.
Yeah, preferably trade down and try and get him. Maybe pick up one of the Hornets picks and somebody else. Let's move on to Malaki Brahnam. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of him on the Wizards. I think he's a solid prospect, but I don't think he's really what we need right now. I mean, he plays no defense. I'm gonna put it out there. He's not a good defender, and he's a really good scorer. He can handle and he can slash. He can shoot.
Yeah,
he's gonna be good on offense. He's like a Cam Thomas-ish player. But at the same time, I don't know. I think we need a little help scoring, but at the same time, like our starting lineup, Beal's a great scorer. KCP's a really solid shooter. Kuzma's a great scorer. Porzingis is a great scorer. Our entire lineup has scorers. We don't need any more of that. Like, I think we're okay. Even our bench, I'd say Rui's developing into a really, really good scorer. And
I'd say,
yeah.
I mean, but our bench could use like a kind of 6-man get a bucket type guy. But
yeah, but at the same time, if you can do a little bit of coaching and stagger the lineups, it's way less of an issue. So I think we're okay in that regard. Malaki would definitely come off the bench for us. I don't see him starting in any sense of the possibilities. But I mean, I'd be excited to have his offense. It would be a reach at 10. I'd be excited to have his offense. But I would definitely not be looking forward to our defense.
Yeah.
And if you're a Wizards fan who really wants defense, you better hope he plays with the bench. If he starts, it's going to be a train wreck on defense for our entire starting group. So how do you feel about Malaki?
I feel like his offensive skill set, he's really good in the mid range. He's a solid driver, has the 3-point upside. I feel like it's pretty advanced, or I wouldn't say advanced, but fundamentally sound for how young he is.
Yeah.
And his defense is a big question. Luckily, I mean, do you think it could like somewhat develop because he's that young? But I don't. Yeah, I don't know. It's an pick.
I do want to cut him some slack where he wasn't in a great defensive system in college at all. Like, they didn't really care about defense. So maybe if he's in a system that really pushes him to defend, he could do it. But as of right now, I don't see him being a plus defender anytime soon.
Yeah, I would think, he was, in my opinion, like a small trade back option to like probably like 14 around there, or like even more. Because he was getting a bit of hype. Now it's kind of died down to like you see him getting picked in some mocks up in like the low 20s, but
yeah. Let's move on to some trade up targets. So these are guys who we'd probably have to trade up for. Let's start with the guy that everybody's been talking about, the Wizards possibly trading up for. Let's start with Jaden Ivey. Look, I don't think this gets done. It's going to take a lot to trade up to number 4. Just because the Kings are like shopping the pick doesn't mean that they're just willing to give it away for nothing. We would have to probably give one of Denny or Rui, Kuzma, maybe KCP, and the 10 to get there. That's a big package.
Yeah.
And I think that hurts our team more than Jaden Ivey would help it, if that makes sense.
From a win now perspective.
Yes. Yeah, from a win now perspective. Obviously, he'd be great just in general. I think Jaden Ivey would start if we somehow, he'd have to start because we're definitely trading one of our starters to get him. I think he would definitely start next to Beal. I think he'd be solid. I think he has some playmaking potential, and that's purely because he's so athletic and so good off the dribble and just driving. He's going to create open spaces for other players, whether that's hitting them in the corner or hitting them as they're coming down in the paint on a cut or anything. I think he could do it. He said he models his game after John Morant. And I think if he continues down that path and tries to be like John Morant, and I think he also said Russell Westbrook, he could end up being a solid playmaker. And I think he'd actually fit next to Beal well. It's going to take a little bit of time, though. I don't think he'll be amazing at playmaking off the bat. I'm purely talking about his upside there. I think he has a lot of upside there. But yeah, I mean, you can talk about Jaden Ivey too.
Yeah. So apparently, there's like a bunch of teams want to trade up to number 4 with the Kings to get Jaden Ivey. A lot of teams apparently love him. I've heard there's the Pacers, the Knicks,
Pistons, right?
oh yeah, and the Pistons, who are like, yeah. A lot of teams want him. So yeah, the best thing about him is just his slashing. He can like pretty much get to the rim whenever he wants because he's so quick, has a solid enough handle that like he can get by dudes, and his athleticism is insane. Like if he gets up in the air, it's either like a foul or like a dunk or like a layup. It's pretty hard. It'll be pretty hard to stop, which is like I think that's pretty much the basis of his playmaking potential, as you were talking about. Like it's not the fact like he's like is like he'd be like that smart of a passer. It's just like teams were like they're gonna try to stop him from getting downhill, and that's gonna cause a lot of players to rotate, which could obviously create defensive breakdowns, open shots in general if he makes the right read. Yeah, I mean, and you'd have to trade up a lot for him.
He'd be. I think he'd still be a good fit. Another thing, one thing that kind of worries me a little bit is that sometimes he's over aggressive on defense and kind of leads to fouls and stuff like that. And the other thing I'm a little bit worried about is his shot, because even though he shot good from 3, it looks a little weird to me. Like he barely gets any height off his jump shot.
Yeah,
it looks a little off-putting. But he at the same time he's hitting it, so I mean I can't really say anything about it. He's been hitting from NBA range as well. Like he really extended his range. His freshman year, I believe he did not shoot that great, but I think he really made a concerted effort to improve himself there, and he did. And I'm also a little bit worried about his mid range, because sometimes when he just pulls up, like he'll have a little too much juice on it. Like it's weird how he has a lot of touch from 3 on his shot. But his mid-range, like I feel like he rushes the shot so much that his touch like disappears, and sometimes just clanks off the rim or off the backboard. So I'm a little worried about the shot. But I mean, honestly, just his athleticism alone, I think like he's probably one of those like can't miss prospects. Like he's gonna be good at least at driving and dunking, especially with NBA spacing with that bigger court. He was doing this stuff in college with a condensed court with a lot of zone being run.
Yeah.
He's going to thrive in the NBA with all that space in front of him. I think he's going to have a great time. I hope he's in the dunk contest. I really like to see him in the dunk contest. But yeah, that's what I got for Jaden Ivey. Do you have anything else to add, or should we move on?
I think I'm ready to move on.
Okay. Dyson Daniels, the other potential trade-up target. I'm saying he's a trade-up target, but he also has a chance to fall to 10. I'd say maybe like a 20 to 30% chance that he actually falls to 10. It would require a few different teams to like reach, maybe for Jeremy Sochan there. I think he has a chance to fall to 10. But I think realistically, if we really want him, I mean, I feel like the Blazers and the Pelicans and potentially even the Kings really like him. So all it takes is one of those guys to just take the swing. Even the Spurs, I think, are a sneaky team that could want him, just because they love their Australian guys. I mean, they had Patty Mills, that was their guy. So I think the Spurs have a sneaky shot to take him as well. And I think personally he would be the best fit in the starting lineup, and this is why. Dyson Daniels is 6'7.5", so he's borderline 6'8". He is a point guard. He is solid off the catch and shoot. He can't really dribble into a shot, but he's solid off the catch and shoot. He would cover up for all of Beal's defensive deficiencies, and he would bring size back to our starting lineup. Because we play KCP at the 3, we are at a size disadvantage against a lot of teams, especially the bigger teams. If we have Dyson there who can switch 1 through 3, potentially 4, if he improves defensively even more, then it mitigates our smaller size at small forward because we have a big point guard. So I think it would balance out, and I think he would actually be really, really good for us defensively. Obviously, he's also has really good vision. He's a really good passer. He just kind of plays the right way. He has a high IQ. And I mean, listening to how he was talking about his experience in the G League, like you can tell at the beginning, he really definitely struggled with the pace of the game at first and how the game is supposed to be played. But a couple of vets on the Ignite team kind of took him in and told him, this is how you play, like, and just kind of gave him a nice roadmap. And he finished the year so fine. And I'm not worried about Dyson Daniels' ability to translate to the NBA at all. I think he's going to be a really seamless transition. I think he's going to be really, really solid point guard if we pick him up. And I mean, if we trade up, I don't know. I mean, maybe we could trade up with the Blazers, give KCP in the 10th or something like that. I don't think a lot of people would mind that. Maybe they want Rui or something. I'd be hesitant on like trading. Just to describe myself, I'm just hesitant on trading Rui and Denny in general, just because I believe in them a little bit more than a lot of other Wizards fans do. But some Wizards fans just wouldn't care if either of them were gone. If you really wanted Dyson Daniels, it would probably take either KCP to the Blazers or maybe Kuzma, who a lot of people are actually debating on should they sell high. That's a different topic for a different day. West, how do you feel, man? How do you feel about Dyson Daniels?
I feel like the biggest
item on me.
Okay, well, there's nothing wrong with not being as high as him as you, because you're like his biggest fan, but
I feel like his biggest fan. That's a lie, but I really like him.
So I'm torn on his shooting because I feel like I can't tell if it's going to be good or not. I just can't. The percentage wasn't good, but you have to consider it's an actually NBA distance 3-point line, not college.
Yeah.
So obviously, it took him some time to adjust to that. And as you said, like in his like last, you said like, well, I don't know. I've heard us say like last 9 games,
41% from 3.
Yeah, 41% from 3. So that's obviously intriguing. In the workouts, he was shooting them at an efficient clip. The form in general, it seems solid to me. It's a good foundation to build upon. Obviously, off the dribble, he said, is it off the dribble threes? Like that's non-existent for him, but he's shown that he can shoot off the catch. For me, obviously it's not. I'm torn on his shooting. If he can be respectable, that's amazing. But it's not a guarantee, obviously.
You have a right to be concerned about it. You're totally right. Because to be honest, like 9 games is a small sample size, and the rest of the season he wasn't really a great shooter. I also don't like the massive dip he has on his shot. I think that's what's holding him back from being able to shoot off the dribble efficiently. But he also has a nice floater. I would say he has a nice floater. Obviously, another thing that people are concerned about is his handle and his burst. He doesn't really have much burst, so he's going to rely on his handle to get to the rim. And his handle isn't great, so he's going to rely on pick and rolls to get to the rim. And I mean, look, at the end of the day, he's still 6'7", and if he matches up against a guy who's smaller than him, at the very least, I think he could post him up or something, and maybe force a switch and get Brad on a smaller guy. If I'm drafting Dyson Daniels and I'm the Wizards, I'm drafting him purely for his defensive fit next to Bradley Beal and nothing else. The offense can come along as it comes along. Like I said, we have other really good scorers on the team. We don't necessarily need him to score right away or even be a massive positive on that end. If he just has the occasional great shooting night, I would say almost like a Draymond Green, who a lot of nights is really bad on offense, but occasionally he'll go off and will elevate the team a lot with his defense and impact. I think Dyson Daniels will have the most impact of any player we really draft this year. I think he'll have the most overall team impact.
Mm-hmm. So one more thing I'll note, Dyson Daniels, if we draft him, I don't see how he could not start for us.
I think he definitely starts. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't see why he doesn't start. So he's starting. And the Wizards were statistically the worst 3-point shooting team in the league. And Bradley Beal has come off a career worst 30% from 3. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a little concerned about the spacing. Obviously, KCP, he's a 39% shooter. Kuzma was around 33, 34. He's good for a stretch four, and Porzingis, who he's capable of stretching the floor. So for a 5, he's solid. But it's just that backcourt of Daniels and Beal spacing wise, if Beal doesn't really regain his outside shot, it's a big concern for me, just spacing wise, to have a backcourt like that.
You make a very valid point. I totally agree with you on that. I'm definitely relying on Beal to get his shot back in this scenario because he's done it before.
Yeah.
I would expect him to bounce back. If he doesn't, though, you're right. That's going to be concerning. But I think he also shot one of the highest rate of contested threes in the league as well. So I think that also contributed to his poor 3-point shooting. He wasn't getting as open, or wasn't able to get as open, because obviously we didn't really have a playmaker like that in our starting.
Yeah. His best 3-point shooting years have been playing off of John Wall and playing off the ball.
Yeah.
And he's just not as good as the pull up off the dribble threes.
Yeah. Overall, Dyson he's definitely a polarizing prospect, because I've seen guys like I think Quentin Mayo was like, why are you trying to convince me that another point forward that can't shoot would be good on this team? I think that tweet's lacking a lot of context. I'm not calling out Quentin Mayo specifically. I respect him. I love his work. But yeah, I think a lot of Wizards fans are thinking along the same lines of what he tweeted. And I just have to say there's a lot of context that you're missing that you need to really study up on. The only thing I would dislike is if we drafted Dyson and we didn't start him, because then I have serious concerns about our bench, and it would just look really sloppy. You'd have Dyson with Kispert, who can shoot, which would actually be a good pairing in the backcourt. But then you also have Denny, who is inconsistent right now from 3. Rui, who would be a good fit. And then you also have Daniel Gafford, who can't really shoot. So you're putting 3 inconsistent or non-shooters out there, rolling them out on the bench. Obviously, if you stagger them, it's less of an issue. But I would hate to draft Dyson and not give him the opportunity to start for us. I think that would be a huge mistake. And I think I think he'd make the biggest impact of any of these draft guys day one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I mentioned. I can't really see him not starting. It is the Washington Wizards, so you never know.
Yeah.
But I just can't really imagine that a scenario where he's on our team, but coming off the bench.
Yeah. Let's talk about some trade down targets. So these are guys who we could probably trade down for and pick up. And I'm going to start off with TyTy Washington. I really like TyTy still. I know people are more down on him. I think we're both a little bit higher on him than the consensus.
The thing is, most people just look at, we played bad in the tournament against St. Peter's or whatever, and it's just a recency bias thing. It goes through their head that's just their lasting image of him, which isn't really fair to him. But I feel that's kind of where, from the casual perspective, it's that's why they're low on him. But
yeah, so I think a reason he's kind of fallen, one is because other prospects have kind of risen up, and 2, people are convinced his ceiling isn't that high. I don't know. I think his ceiling's still pretty high in general. I think he could end up being a Halliburton-esque player, where he's a primarily scoring guard, but also has a really, really solid. He also has really solid vision, and he can also dish and get a lot of assists, rack a lot of assists up. I think he'd be great for the Wizards. I think he's a solid fit next to Beal. He's not a great defender, but I think he could be average. And I think if he's playing point guard, I think he's going to be fine. I think he's 6'3" and a half right now. It's decent size. People are concerned about, I'd say, his handle, which I'm concerned about too a little bit. But at the same time, TyTy can do a lot of different things. He can pull up from mid-range very effectively. He has a really good floater. He can finish at the rim. He can shoot the 3, especially off the catch and shoot. He's a really good catch and shoot 3-point shooter. And if you just look at his stats before he got injured in the middle of the season, he was doing really, really good. And obviously the thing everyone points to when you talk about his playmaking is that he broke John Wall's assist record at Kentucky, that one game that he just actually got to handle the ball.
He has 17 assists.
Yeah.
I think, right? Yeah.
He did look really good. Obviously, it's a 1-game sample size. We can't extrapolate too much, but he has really good vision. And offensively, he would be a great fit next to Bradley Beal, in my opinion. And I think he'd start day one, unless we pick up another point guard in free agency. I would think I think if we draft a point guard in this draft with the first round pick, I think they're probably going to start. But otherwise, yeah, I would love to trade down for TyTy. His range is anywhere from, I would say 10, because I don't think it's out of the range of possibilities the Wizards might reach if they can't find a trade down and they really, really like him. And like, let's say Dyson is gone, Johnny Davis is gone. I don't see it crazy. I don't think it's crazy for the Wizards to maybe reach there significantly if they can't find a trade down. So I'd say probably from 10 to like 22-ish. I don't think he gets past the Nuggets if he's there. But yeah, overall, I really like TyTy. I think he's a really solid player. I think he's being slept on once again. Another Kentucky guard who got hurt playing out of position, wasn't utilized to his full extent, is once again falling in the draft. Guys, he's a bingo board of just, okay, check. This is everything that we have, every lesson that we have thought we learned. We need to check off all that and just say bingo and draft this guy. I think he's going to be a really, really solid player. And I think he's going to surprise people as long as he stays healthy. And that's another concern, obviously, is his health. Can he stay healthy? I think if he stays healthy, he's going to be a great player.
So yeah, I'm basically just going to reiterate what you said. He's an amazing floater. His mid-range game, he's great at 3-point wise. I feel like there's great upside there. I feel like he projects, even in his rookie year, he could be a serviceable.
Yeah.
From outside, as he's like, I don't know, he shot 35% from three on like. Well, do you know what the volume was? I honestly don't know.
I don't have it on hand, no, but
off the top of my head, it was.
Yeah, but I will say that he definitely shot better off catch and shoot than he did off the dribble, which is weird because he shoots mid-range really good off the dribble. So it's something weird, but I think he can convert that to a good pull-up three if he works on it.
Yeah, and he's amazing. He's an amazing passer. He's like making the right reads, whether it's out of the PNR or off the catch. He's really good.
He's very good PNR. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a really smart player. The questions are for him. It's mainly like, can he is like finishing at the rim and getting to the rim is a bit of it because he's not that athletic.
Yeah.
And he's shown to like, struggle through finishing through contact in general. And as you said, his handle he needs work, and that's going to obviously make it hard for him to actually get to the rim off the dribble. But I feel like he has the skills that are pretty translatable to the NBA in his shooting and passing and IQ. And obviously someone with a good floater, obviously it usually projects as a good shooter. Yeah, definitely. I would be fine with trading down for him. I feel like he has a really solid chance at actually being the answer at point guard. So I don't see why not.
Yeah, and this is coming from two guys who like TyTy, so take that with your grain of salt. If you don't like him, all power to you. But also, there's one more thing I was going to say. I totally forgot what I was going to say, though. Maybe I'll remember it later. Let's move on to another trade down target, who we could also probably take at 10. I was going to say TyTy's fit with the Wizards. I was going to say that him and Porzingis in a pick and roll, pick and pop would be awesome to watch. I mean, I think it would work so well. And even if he's relegated to being off the bench, I think him and Gafford could still work really, really well off the pick and roll. He's just a really solid pick and roll player. He's going to have trouble separating unless he's doing a pull-up mid-range or getting a screen, which concerns me a little bit because, look, unless you're really, really good, they're not going to run a lot of screens for you at the NBA level. Like, let's just be honest. But at the same time, with Beal creating space for other players with his rim pressure and his gravity, if he gets TyTy open off a catch and shoot three, I think it'll go in. Like, I think he's a really solid fit with Bradley Beal. Let's move on to Tari Eason. That's the next trade down target, possibly. He's a great defender. I mean, he's very similar to Jeremy Sochan, but he has been falling, apparently due to bad interviews and bad. I think one of the anonymous executives said his IQ is low on film studies, which is weird because he's such a good and switchable defender, and he plays so well on defense. My guess is he's talking about offense, and
I think he is.
Yeah, that is a problem. If you want to talk about Tari Eason, go ahead.
Well, I'll just go off would he be on the Wizards? He is a forward, projects as a power forward at the next level.
He's 6'8", I believe.
Oh, okay.
So he'd be.
I thought he was a little taller, but
I think he might be 6'9". He's like somewhere in that range.
Okay.
He's definitely a forward for sure. But he's one with a lot of good defensive versatility and just flexibility. He could probably switch on to, honestly, I wouldn't say 1 through 4. I'd say more like 2 through 4. I feel like he might get cooked a little bit by ones, but overall, I think he's a really solid defender, and I think he would bring defense to this team. But it's a similar situation to Jeremy Sochan, where look, Tari Eason isn't a good enough shooter. His mechanics are not good. He shoots from like the side of his shoulder, like right here. Like I'm exaggerating. It's like right here. Like he shoots like that. It's like
it's just like all the way on the side.
Yeah. Like if he could move this to this eventually, I think he'd be good. But can the Wizards really can they really afford to take that risk when they already have Denny, they already have Rui, they already have Kuzma, like they have a really solid group of wings. Do we need a Tari Eason? Maybe not. I mean, we definitely need his defense. His offense, not so much though. He's not really a 3-and-D.
His offense he's
developing.
I mean, when driving, he can be extremely good. He's extremely physical.
Yes.
Has a solid handle for a big. It could not project. It could not translate. But yeah, he was driving, getting to the rim, getting to the free throw line a lot. I'd say that's kind of his strength offensively.
Yeah.
And then his decision making comes into play a lot. He forces it a lot, and then when he realizes he can't really make a play, he doesn't really make a good pass. Out of like getting trapped or whatever.
He definitely has flaws.
He's kind of a boomer bust because he has kind of that offensive upside more so and he's
got a lot to work on. He's really raw on offense.
Yeah, regarding his shot, its mechanics aren't good. Percentage wise, it was 35%, but it's definitely not projecting. I mean, it's definitely not translating at all. The only thing I could say is like on an open 3-point shot, maybe he can make you pay. That's the only positive thing I can say about it. It's like at least it was like, but like the year before that, he was like, you shoot like 29%. He's a boomer bust prospect kind of to me, but I don't see his fit with the Wizards at all either. So
yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of Jeremy Sochan, you're probably a fan of Tari Eason as well. They're like a similar mold of player, kind of. I'd say obviously Jeremy's better. I'd say all around defensively as well.
Yeah.
As well as I think he has better vision than Tari. He's definitely a better passer. Yeah, this is one of those picks where it's like, if you take Tari Eason, you are probably thinking of trading Rui, Denny, or Kuzma, or KCP potentially for a point guard in that sense. And I wouldn't mind that. I think Tari, he has a lot. He's a long way to go on offense, and I don't know if we're the right place for him to really come and develop. I know we've developed Rui into a really solid 3-point shooter, but is that kind of the only guy we've really developed into a solid 3-point shooter over the past like decade? I think so. So it's tough because I know for a fact the second he gets in the NBA, the second he sits down with a shooting coach, they're going to say, let's change your form. And it's going to hurt going through the changing phase because there's always going to be a dip in your percentages when you start changing your shot because you're not used to it. It's different. You're trying to feel it out and stuff like that. So I don't think it's going to be pretty for the first couple of years. And I don't know if Wizards fans are totally ready for that. Some people are. Some people are like, give me Tari Eason. I love Tari Eason. I respect it. I wouldn't hate the pick. But I feel like those same people that love Tari Eason also would definitely be okay with trading one of our forwards as well. Let's move on to another trade down target. Let's talk about Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams is really unique. He's been like the darling of the NBA Combine. He's been moving up like crazy. I mean, before the Combine, he was probably projected 30 to 40 in that range. After the Combine and after people started doing got much more tape on him, he could go as high as 14 to the Cavaliers. Like he could potentially end up as a lottery pick. And that's a huge jump.
And you have some people saying like he's not getting past Atlanta at 16 too. So yeah,
that's a very real possibility. And I want to be honest, like when you look at his stats, like his raw stats are good. 18 points per game at Santa Clara. Was a smaller school, so it's not insane, but at the same time, it's really, really solid. 51% from the field, 40% from three, 80% from the line. This guy's gonna be a good shooter. He's 6'6". He has a really long wingspan. He projects as a good defender, as a good 3-point shooter. He can also slash and he can drive and he can score a little bit. He does so much offensively. And apparently he ranked in the 89th percentile as a scorer and passer out of the pick and roll. So this is a guy who can kind of do it all. And he's going to be big for his size. He's probably going to play shooting guard or small forward. And his wingspan is 7'2". That is massive. That is like Tari Eason level wingspan. And he's just, he's a good ball handler. He's really good on offense all around, catch and shoot threat. And even though he's not the greatest defender right now, because of that length he has the potential to be a really good defender. And I would love to have this guy on the Wizards. I mean, he's everything we need. He shoots threes. He can handle the ball, take pressure off Beal. He can assist. He can pass the ball a little bit. And he has defensive upside. I would love to have this guy in DC. In fact, I think if we get him, we need to start him because I think he could make an impact day one. I really like this guy all around. Like I think he's a sleeper, and I think NBA teams are waking up and they're realizing, hey, this guy's really good. We don't know about if he has star potential or not. Maybe not. Probably not. But is he going to be a really good player for like years to come in the league? Probably. Like he's a really solid chance to be really good. And I'm willing to bank on a guy like that. I'm totally willing to bank on a guy like that, especially for the Wizards, who, like you said, need 3-point shooting, especially if Beal's shot doesn't come back, who need defense because obviously not everyone on our team's a defender. I think he's a great fit here. Like if we do nothing in free agency, like I should say we get nothing done and our roster is just added Jalen Williams, I would start him.
Yeah. I mean, the only options are literally like the worst starting point guards.
Maybe Denny.
But yeah, Denny, you could that's better because he at least has like a chance of being good. Yeah. Unlike then there's like the guaranteed worst point guard in the league, which could be Neto, Sato, Ish Smith, and like literally none of those guys can even shoot either. So it's like, if I'd probably start Jalen Williams.
Yeah. Okay, another trade down target, who has also been the darling of the Combine as well, Dalen Terry. Dalen Terry is like a bigger guard. He's got a good handle. In general, he's been rising because he's a 6'7" guard and he could play point or play shooting guard if he needs to. His stats don't look amazing. 8 points, 4 rebounds, or 8 points, 4.8 rebounds, and 3.9 assists in his sophomore year. He was also averaging 27 minutes per game. So his stats don't look great, but it's about what he can do for you potentially. He's a really solid ball handler as it is. And I mean, I think he could run the point in an offense. I think it would take maybe a year or two. I think he could definitely run point. And like I said, 3.9 assists per game in college is pretty good. That's a really solid assist total. And yeah, he's a solid passer. He's a really good defender. He made the Pac-12 all defensive team. And like he hustles. His 3-point game needs some work. It improved to 36%, but you'd like to see it better. That's also from college range. You'd like to see him get better in that range, but he shot 50% overall from the field. I think he'd be a solid pick. I definitely would not mind him at all. I think if we're taking him, he's probably not going to start because he's probably going to go in like the 20s. But I'd say he has a shot. He has a real shot if we don't pick him another point guard. He has a real shot to start. What do you think, Wes? What do you think about Dalen Terry?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to need some time to like kind of get to the level like you want him to be at. But I feel like fit wise, what he could like develop into, it's kind of what Washington needs.
Yeah.
With like what he can bring defensively and as a passer, but I wouldn't mind it trading down also because we'd be trading down more into the 20s, so you'd get even more value like in general. So which could be used to make like a different move on draft night or later in the offseason. But
yeah, I mean, you're right about trading down. Yeah, it feels like we have way more options trading down. I think we have two more guys to talk about here, and then we'll wrap it up. But yeah, we do have more options trading down, I think, and we could even pick up a 2023 first, which I would love because I love the 2023 draft, and it's going to be. I'm definitely more excited for that draft than I am for this draft. Funny enough, but yeah, if we could pick up a 2023 first. Because we did trade our 2023 first away, lottery protected, I believe.
Yeah.
If we make the playoffs and it goes to the Thunder, which it's a big if we make the playoffs, we're not going to have a 2023 pick, which would suck because, like I said, I love that draft.
Yeah,
I think
not going to have a first round pick.
I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be deep. So if we could pick up a 2023 pick, I'd really like that.
I'd imagine like the team we're getting it from would want it to be protected, but
yeah, probably lottery protected. If we're trading into like, let's say we trade with like the Sixers are at 23. Let's say for some reason they really like somebody at 10, they want to trade up and get them or something like that. Or maybe even we just trade straight up like someone like a Kispert or a KCP for the Sixers pick. I don't know if I'd do that, but that is a possibility. We could explore that option. Yeah. If we do that, the Sixers, I think they'd be willing to give up actually, no, they don't have their 2023 pick because they gave it to the Nets. The Nets have their pick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe the Bucks. It's going to, but at the same time, the Bucks gave their pick to New Orleans, I believe. Yeah, look, a lot of these teams down here don't have firsts, so it's gonna have to be a team with a first. But I would like to, if we do trade down that low, I really think we'd have to pick up a future first because going from 10 to like 20 is a pretty big jump.
I guess. I mean, you could. I mean, San Antonio is 25 and 20, but they already have the 9th. They might be interested.
San Antonio might like let's say they really like Jeremy Sochan and they also really like Johnny Davis and they want both. They could probably make that offer. Maybe 20.
I'm trying to imagine what they. Oh yeah, the 2023 first one I'm thinking, but
yeah, I think they probably offer like 20 and 2023 first, or maybe just 20 and 20. Maybe they're two later first round picks in this draft. Yeah, I think Dalen Terry would be a solid fit here. But he's going to take a little bit of time. I think he's going to take a little bit of time. I wouldn't expect him day one to be amazing. So I wouldn't take him as like our point guard option. Another option at point guard, if we trade down, Kennedy Chandler. Look, if this guy was just like 3 or 4 inches taller, he'd be a lottery pick. Like, he can shoot, he can score, he can slash, he can play make. He's a solid playmaker. He has good vision. He hustles really hard on defense. Even though he's small, he's like 6 foot in shoes. Even though he's small, he hustles. I mean, I like how this guy plays. I like Kennedy Chandler in general. He would be a good fit here if we are willing to go small. And I could only see him starting, I think, if we put somebody like Denny at small forward so that we have more size, because his size is going to hurt us for sure.
Yeah.
Especially if we have a 6'5" small forward in KCP. I think his size would hurt us if he did start with KCP. I think that would be a horrible defensive trio between those three, even though KCP is a good defender. He can't cover up for Beal and for our point guard. I think that would be really tough for him. So, yeah. How do you feel about Kennedy Chandler?
I don't think he'd even have like a chance to start. No offense to him. I'm just saying, like,
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, like, because I'm considering, like, we don't just keep our roster the same way it is if we draft him. But I feel like, yeah, I like his skill set. In general, like, and things you mentioned. But I mean, I feel like it would just be better for him to like develop with a lesser role, whether if that is your backup point guard, or even like spending time in the G League if he somehow can't find playing time, which I feel like he definitely could. I feel like he definitely should, because he's a point guard, and that's a position that we're not that deep at. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little less higher on him than you are, but I feel like he's still a great talent. But
yeah,
yeah,
so,
I just don't know about starting him.
Yeah. So right now he projects as a really solid backup point guard. You're right about the starting. I agree. Like I said, I wouldn't start him unless we had some serious size at small forward, like Danny or something like that. Yeah. So he's not our answer, I don't think, at point guard. I don't expect him to be our answer at point guard at all. His range is it's all over the place, really. It's anywhere from like 20 to like in the 30s. It's a pretty wide range, just depending on how much you're worried about his height. It really is. That's like the number one thing, how much you're worried about his height. Actually, we did actually forget to talk about somebody else, but we'll bring him up.
Well, there's actually 2 guys that I've noticed that you've glossed over, if we have time to go over them.
Yeah. Well, we got time, man. It's fine. It's whatever. We can talk about MarJon Beauchamp. I believe you brought him up to me.
Oh yeah.
How do you feel about him? So why would you want him on the Wizards? Enlighten me.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily specifically. He's not like one of my favorite guys, but I feel like just because
he's a target,
he's like a wing that I feel like can contribute now.
Yeah, defensively.
Yeah. What do you think about him?
I think defensively he could be ready to contribute day one. People are saying he could defend 1 through 3. I think he's more of a 1 through 2 defender, with possibility to switch on to 3 and just hold his own for like a couple seconds. His offense definitely needs some work. But at the same time, he was in the G League. He shooting from NBA range, playing with NBA spacing. He's definitely raw on offense. He definitely is good on defense, though. So, I mean, no matter what you really want to do, he'd be a solid option at the 2, in my opinion, on the Wizards. Question of could he start? I'd say only if Beal is the point guard, like only if we make no other moves at point guard, could he start? Could he have a chance? But even then, I think the team would, I don't know, knowing how like Wes distributes minutes now after that first year, I feel like Kispert would start over him. at that point.
Look at
Just because if we're trading down from MarJon, he's going to be his range is from like 20 to 30. It's the same. It's like the same range as Kennedy Chandler. It just depends on like what team really needs his defense and what team can weather the storm of his offense for now. But he has good potential. I think he has good potential all around, and he'd be a solid player. I just don't know if he'd be a great fit in DC right now. And I definitely don't think that West would start a rookie picked in the 20s over Kispert, who he's shown that he loves. I mean, he started him for a lot of games when Beal went down. So yeah, it would and then obviously he'd be a weird fit with the bench because that just makes the spacing even worse on the bench. Yeah, I think he'd be okay. So who is the prospect that you said that I lost over? I have one in my head. I have one in my head.
Two guys. One was like, I think he might be he's like kind of a trade up to just right at our spot. But so it's Benedict Mathurin and AJ Griffin.
Yeah.
They're about in our range, I'd say.
I'm personally assuming that Mathurin is just gone. Like I
really don't. He can go as high as 6, so that's why I kind of said trade up to about our range.
Yeah. He'd be great as a third guard for our team, especially.
Yeah.
Just in terms of providing an offensive spark plug off the bench. I think he has a really, really high potential, actually. Even defensively, as long as he just focuses and just stays locked in on defense. Mm-hmm. He's really good at driving. He can finish. He can shoot. Like, I think he could.
He's great movement shooter off the ball, off the catch too. I feel like he'd fit pretty well. I mean, and he's kind of like a Wizards pick to me just because of, what he can bring shooting wise and with his defensive upside, obviously.
Yeah.
But
I'm totally just considering him out of our range at this point. I feel like he could go as high as 5, like to the Pistons, like genuinely. Like he is a really good player and he has an underrated ceiling. If he's there at 10, that's a slam dunk pick. And if Tommy does not make that pick, I will lose all my hope in Tommy Shepard right there. But
it depends on who he passes over. It depends on who he passes.
If Ben Mathurin is there, man, like there's no way there's a prospect better than him on the board. Like that's just my opinion. Like Ben Mathurin at this point is definitely a locked in top 6, 7 prospect for me. Potentially could go top 5. Like that's how highly I think of him. So in my opinion, if Ben is there and there's unless somehow, like, let's say Paolo Banchero falls to 10, which is completely impossible.
Yeah.
Somehow he falls to 10. Like, okay, I'll take Paolo. Maybe if it's like a Dyson Daniels or Benedict Mathurin at that spot, I don't know. I wouldn't know. But at the same time, there's no way both of those guys make it to 10. There's just no way. If I had to pick, I'd probably pick Benedict Mathurin just because, I don't know. I think I have him rated a little bit higher on my board, but he's really, there's no way both of them are going to be there anyways. So I guess there's not much of a point in talking about it. But yeah, like I said, I completely blanked on him you're right. I completely blanked on him in the trade up. Man, you should told me before recording, bro. You should let me know.
I thought he was just in the at 10s kick.
I got you. Yeah. But that should tell you how unrealistic I think it is for us to get Benedict Mathurin
at 10.
Yep.
I don't think either. So AJ Griffin was
the other guy. Yep.
So he's
a
one and done freshman at Duke whose strength is 3-point shooting. He shot very efficiently throughout there from there, like 45%.
Yep.
He's good off the catch. And now, like, obviously off the dribble, he could develop into something solid there, but not quite. The biggest concern with him is his defense. He got beat a lot off the dribble as he wasn't as quick, which some people attribute that to his previous injuries he's had. Off the ball, he got beat a bit too. And also the thing people around him, he has a little bit of self-creation upside, which he's shown, which is like out of the post, he's kind of built like a bowling ball a little bit.
Yep.
Also just in the mid range, in the floater, he's displayed a little bit of that. Personally, if he's at 10 and we pick him, I'm not too mad. Like, I know you say like we have too many wing/forwards. I think he could play the 2, even though he'd get beat by a lot of quick 2 guards, but I feel like he could somehow fit in there. With just like Kispert being like a shooting guard, or / small forward, and Griffin being the alternate. But that's just my opinion. I'm lower on him than most people, but I'd be okay with him at 10.
I am also lower on him than most people. I've been lower on him. Our guy Jaden, I'm about to call out Jaden for his previous take. I mean, he was saying that he's definitely a top 6 or 7 prospect. He was saying that earlier on, though. I think as he got more film and kind of realized, okay, he's
everyone's board was different months ago. So
oh yeah, for sure. But like I'm trying to give you the general mindset of like the NBA draft community. They were along the same mindset as Jaden, where they had him definitely locked in top 6 to 7 prospect. But the more you watch of him and the more you realize like this guy's really slow laterally, and that he gets beat on defense pretty easily, the more it concerns you. Sure, he's a great 3-point shooter, but if his defense doesn't come around, like it's going to be hard to justify keeping him out on the court, especially for the Wizards. Even though we do need 3-point shooting, he'd be a great immediate help to a 3-point shooting, immediate help. There's no way he starts. And there's zero chance he starts. And I don't see us trading away anybody to make room for AJ Griffin either in that scenario. Like, I don't think he's good enough to trade away like a Rui or a Denny or a Kuzma or a KCP, unless it's for a point guard, I guess. But I don't see us trading away any of our forwards, specifically if we get AJ Griffin, as opposed to like maybe if some guy like falls to us. Like if Benedict Mathurin fell to us, I could definitely see us dealing one of our forwards or at least Kispert, somebody like that, to make room for him because he's that good of a player. I don't see us making room for AJ Griffin like that in the same way. I also don't see, I don't see him as a good defender right now, but you're right. People are attributing to his defensive decline to his athleticism. And it's a worry. It's a debate on whether, do you think his athleticism will come back, or do you think he will continue to be like this? Because it kind of has been like a year past the injury. So he's definitely one of the more polarizing prospects. I'd say that's like projected to go top 10. Personally, I think he's going to fall. I think he's probably the biggest candidate to fall besides Shaedon Sharpe in the draft. So I think he'll be there at 10 for us. And in terms of his fit, like he would help us right away at 3-point shooting, but he also hurt us on defense. His upside is completely based on whether or not you think his athleticism will come back, because that would immediately improve his defense, and that would also immediately improve his offense, because then he'd be able to drive way more efficiently. He'd be able to get past guys way easier. He'd be able to dunk it way easier. He's still an athletic player. We're not saying he's not Luka out there right now, but just because his knees are hurt, right? He's still an athletic player. He can still get up there and he can still dunk it.
Also, you hope him just being that 19-year-old that he can like recover from the injuries pretty well.
Yeah.
Like it's obviously, as time goes on, it's going to become less of an excuse for his defense and how he moves laterally.
Yeah.
Because he gets more time away from when those actually injuries occurred. But people pro AJ Griffin are saying his athleticism will come back. Coach K wasn't using him right at Duke. He needs to be able to handle the ball more and drive more. Fair points. Those could be fair points. And obviously people are anti AJ have been saying what we've been saying. It's a concern about whether or not his athleticism will come back. It's been like a year. And also just if he's not
making his shots, like what is he doing for you? There's no 3-point shooter that's going to be on every single night. So if he's not hitting his shots, what is he doing for you? And I think he's like the anti-Corey Kispert, because when Kispert is not hitting, at the very least, he's making solid passes. He's playing high IQ basketball.
Yeah, he's cutting a lot.
Yeah, and he's at least trying on defense. He's not a great defender. He's at least
perimeter
trying.
defense. He's terrible, but off-ball defense, I feel like he can actually like play the passing lanes pretty well, and actually like transition defense. I feel like he kind of knows where to be.
Yeah, and he cuts, and he sometimes even dribbles into the paint, like occasionally. AJ is like, when he's not hitting his shots, he kind of disappears on the court. Like you kind of forget he's there.
Yeah, definitely.
And that kind of reminds me of Otto Porter back in the day. Because when Otto wasn't hitting his shots, it kind of felt like you forgot he was even on the court. Like, I don't think that the Wizards draft philosophy would particularly like lend themselves to taking him. But if the pick happens, I wouldn't say I'd be surprised. I would be surprised. I'd definitely be surprised if he took AJ Griffin. I don't think he's really on the Wizards' radar like that. And this is just me personally. I have no sources or anything. It's just personally from what Tommy's done. I don't think he's a serious prospect for the Wizards.
I mean, I feel like because he's so young, like you have some people who are high on AJ Griffin just look at like, hey man, just give him some time.
Yeah.
For his other areas outside of his shooting to develop.
And that's totally fair.
That he's not a, like a day one win now pick, but
yeah.
I feel like that's the main thing. I feel like his upside that's the main thing why I would be content with picking him at 10.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm definitely like, there's still like definitely like a lot of things he has to work on.
Yeah. The only prospects I wouldn't like us picking at 10, I'd say Jeremy Sochan. I wouldn't like the fit. I wouldn't like the pick, even though he would improve our defense. I don't think I'd like it. And I mean, that's basically, and Malaki Brahnam too. But at the same time, like I could also buy into, hey, he's our scorer off the bench. I could totally buy into that. There's not many guys that if we drafted, I would be like, what? Like, no, take that back. Take somebody else. Really Jeremy Sochan. And
for you, it's like those reactions are going to come on who may we pass on.
Yeah, because there's just no perfect fit for us. Every prospect that like is a great fit has a downside. So I really couldn't complain about anybody that we take. I would be fine with Johnny Davis, with Ochai, which I'd be okay with Shaedon Sharpe. Just at that point, you're just taking a swing and hoping that he becomes a star and hoping that everybody else is wrong about him in the interviews, stuff like that.
Like in my opinion, he's still worth the risk, even with all the things. And even with like people have like criticized the Wizards' development for
the past 5 years.
Past few years. But even then, like I still think it's worth the risk for him, depending on like, because you also have to assume other prospects we like are going to go ahead of him because he's going to be at 10. So
yeah. I mean, just in general. But yeah, that would be a swing I'd just be willing to take. Like, sure, like at that point. Or look, if somebody else really wants Shaedon Sharpe, that would be a good chance to trade back and get a lot of value, maybe a little bit inflated value if a team really falls in love with him and really wants him.
And we were talking about it a little bit like a few weeks ago, like with Jalen Duren, a lot of teams, well, not a lot of teams, but some teams need a center, and he's looked at like as the highest upside center. And like, maybe you can, if there's just not guys you like on the board.
Highest upside outside the top 3.
Yeah.
Then
you could look to like for a Duren desperate team. I like Charlotte comes to mind. Like they're looking for a center. Try to get a lot of draft capital for that pick.
Yeah. So you just reminded me, the two guys I wouldn't be excited for, I guess, if we drafted, are probably Jalen Duren and Jeremy Sochan.
Well, I'd just be confused. Like I was like, is it? I feel like it'd be like one of those.
Yeah.
He's like, is he gonna get traded like later after the draft, like Andrew Wiggins? Because this
Mhm.
makes no sense.
Yeah. And me saying I wouldn't want them for the Wizards isn't saying they're bad prospects. I love Jalen Duren as a prospect. I think Jeremy Sochan's really, really interesting as a prospect. Just for the Wizards, for our team, I would be disappointed in the pick. But at the same time, I'd be hoping that they prove me wrong. Like I can't not root for them now. They're on my team. Like I got.
Oh, yeah, no matter who we drafted on.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got my back no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, I got their back no matter what.
All right. I think that wraps it up, man. We've had a really long discussion.
Yeah, I think we got pretty much.
We got I think we got almost every prospect we reasonably could draft, or trade down for, or trade up for. If we're missing somebody, let us know in the comments, man. I hope you guys enjoyed this. There's not many. Yep, there's not many Wizards podcasts out there anymore, so not many people have been talking about these prospects from a Wizards perspective. So, my Wizards fans, I hope you've enjoyed this. Let us know who you take or what you would do with the 10th pick. Maybe you trade it for Malcolm Brogdon, which is another.
No.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat. I wouldn't do that either. That's another can of worms that we can talk about in the comments.
I don't dislike Brogdon, by the way. It's just from a value standpoint, it's not, and his injury history. But I like him as a player. I'm just gonna put that out there.
I totally agree. I'm totally with you on that. Yeah, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening, if you're listening. And
have a great day.
My mock draft will be going up sometime before the draft. Hopefully I can get it up in time. Yeah, so keep an eye out for that.
I might come up with a big board, but I don't know. I feel like I might have to do more research for that.
Whoa, man. Hey, stepping on my toes. I'm kidding. Yeah, so look, subscribe and like if you enjoy the content, if you like draft stuff. I'm a huge draft junkie, so tune in, subscribe. Well, my mock draft will be out soon enough. We'll catch you guys next time. Have a good day.